Governor Jerry Brown signed more than 800 bills into law since the beginning of this year, including several that address privacy issues in personal tech devices like your TV, smartphone, and tablets. Here with an in-depth look into the state's new privacy laws is my guest, Art Neill, Executive Director of California Western School of Law New Media Rights Program. And Art, one of the new laws regulates police searches of smartphones, tablets, Fitbits, GPS, all these types of devices. So how does the law protect personal information on these types of devices?
Well, it really requires that if a government entity, law enforcement, is going to try to get your electronic communications, your electronic data, this is a wide variety of data, right? Emails to location data, that they're going to need a search warrant.
And that the U.S. Supreme Court already ruled on a San Diego case actually involving digital searches. So why was this law needed then? Right.
So you're talking about the Riley case, which came down last year in the Supreme Court. And the important issue that was decided there was that California really, prior to the Supreme Court's decision, had said, you know what, if we arrest somebody, if a government entity or law enforcement arrests somebody, that the data on their cell phone, it's pretty much free reign in terms of searching that incident to the arrest. Now, the Supreme Court said, look, with regards to cell phones, when you're arrested, there's going to be a higher standard. Unless there's some kind of emergency situation, law enforcement should have to get a warrant. And so with regards to cell phone data, this new law is basically making Riley the law of the land in California, but also expanding it a little bit beyond cell phones to service providers like Facebook and Google, et cetera, that have your personal information, and other kinds of devices, like you mentioned, that might collect personal information of yours.
So a warrant would be needed on that. Moving inside the home with so-called smart TVs, how are they different, first of all, from standard TVs?
Well, a smart TV can do a variety of things. The key feature that we're talking about here, and the key feature that was in the bill that was signed recently, has to do with voice recognition technology. And so really, smart TVs are televisions with computers inside of them, really. And they can allow us to watch video content, but they can also now recognize our voices and take commands from us.
And they can also record what you are viewing in your habits, as you were saying.
Exactly. So there's recording of your voice for the purposes of making this voice recognition technology work.
And so what does the new law have to say about smart TVs?
So the new law says really two things. Number one, if your TV comes with a voice recognition feature, then the manufacturer of the TV needs to be very clear that that feature is there. And if they are recording your conversations in your living room, what you're saying in your living room, then they can't sell that information to third parties. They can't use it for advertising. It's basically against the law to do that.
Now, does that apply to other devices linked to a TV? Let's say Roku, Apple TV, or even like Comcast DVR?
So that's the most interesting thing about this law. No, it really is very narrowly tailored to deal with smart TVs. And so all these video game consoles, the new Xbox, for instance, has voice features, and not just devices you connect to your TV, like the Google Chromecast or Apple TV, but also the law doesn't even cover applications that you install on the TV. So if you go to a third party that's not the TV manufacturer and install an application like a Netflix or Amazon on your TV, not covered.
All right. Now, moving to the airways, way up in the airways, new drone legislation known as the paparazzi bill, for slang, aims to protect the privacy of all Californians, not just Hollywood movie stars. How does that work?
Right. So this really takes what are established physical invasion of privacy laws, physical trespass laws. And it says, you know, in days gone by, not only was it a trespass to physically trespass on somebody's property and take personal and private photos and record information, but it was also a violation of privacy to say, go to a third floor of a building and use a high-powered telephoto lens to take a photo of somebody half a mile away and on their private space. So what this really says is, look, the same thing's going to be illegal if you're using a drone, right? And so it really adds the term airspace to our physical trespass laws, and it says if you're flying a drone and you're basically collecting sound recordings or video recordings that are of a personal or private nature, and you're doing that without permission, then you're going to be violating the law.
Keep your drones close by. All right, Attorney Art Neill, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.